Good evening. It's Tuesday night. We are back once again with Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Good evening, Ben.
Hey, John. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. And it's great to be back here live.
Well, due to the wonders of technology, because tonight, Tuesday night, I hanging out with my friends at the Chicagoland ADJA. So it's thank goodness for the internet.
Woohoo! Great stuff. Great stuff. Well,
they don't know that I snuck out of the room, by the way.
Shh, don't tell them.
I'm giving a presentation right now, and they don't even miss me.
The magic of not only internet, but high-speed connection. I mean,
everybody's asleep. I started my presentation, waited until they went to sleep, ran outside, shot the segment.
Ah, you must be on the resistance part of your speech.
Yeah, there's resistance, all right.
There's a little bit. Oh. Well, before we get too far into tonight's show, what's this T-shirt of the week? What do you got for us tonight?
Oh, you know what? This one comes courtesy of my friends at Listen Technologies, which they make conferencing and assisted listening systems, things like that. And it is another, I don't know, can you read it?
Resistance is not futile. Voltage divided by current. Oh. See, now you'd have to know exactly what that all means, and it's been so long since I've done the electricity thing.
Well, a future episode, maybe we could just scrap tonight's plans and do that.
Oh, but we have such a beautiful topic tonight.
Yeah, I spent at least 3 minutes making those graphics.
Exactly, from the time you walked out from the snoring room to the time you got here, to the broadcasting. Yeah.
I sure hope none of the Chicago guys actually watch this.
Well, that would be like the third person, because I think it was us, and Red Green is the only one who probably watches this anymore. So tonight we're going to talk about these, and I don't even have my microphone prop, but we're going to talk about microphones and feedback. You are on top of it. Nice. Because that's a common problem, as anyone who's used microphones. Most of us, we just have the feedback, and we just kind of go in the corner, cry, and have no idea what's going on. Tonight, I need you to explain everything about that if you can for me.
Everything.
Well, okay, at least enough so I'm dangerous. I mean, so I can fix maybe some of it.
Well, more useful than going in the corner and crying is randomly turning knobs, but doing so with a serious purpose on your face.
It sounds like we're referring to one of those DJ videos.
Just convincing people that you know what you're doing.
I'm doing it. Why is he moving a crossfader when he's trying to get the microphone to work?
Oh gosh, yeah, I know that. Yeah.
Okay, microphones, feedback. Tell us a little bit. Let's start at the beginning. What when I'm hearing feedback, what's happening?
Well, cue graphic one here, John. Basically, what's happening with feedback is when the sound system is hearing itself. So the microphones that we have open, and more open microphones will increase your chances of feedback, by the way. Most DJs don't have more than one or two, but the more open or on microphones you have, the greater your chances for feedback. You're adding all those things into the gain staging. And so when that microphone is hearing itself, basically, that the sound that comes through the microphone then goes through the mixer and then out the speaker and then back into that microphone, that's what feedback is, and it's obnoxious, of course. Certainly. Now, I gotta tell you, due to the wonders of technology, and I appreciate you accommodating me tonight, and I know I made this difficult. I can't see when the graphics go up, so you'll just have to assure me that they're there.
Yep, they are there, and and you'll have to just cue me when you want the rest of the graphics up here.
And I have to remember the hastily made graphics I made and what's on them.
That's all. It's all part of the process.
Okay, now you would say, in a live sound environment, it's going to be almost impossible for that microphone to not hear the speakers. The speakers are loud, right? You're rocking the party. So how do we not have that microphone hear the speaker when it's on and the speaker is on? Then it becomes a game of ratios. It becomes a game of distances. And we've got another graphic here. If you can put that up.
Yep, there we go.
Now we've got our microphone and our speaker. And we've got our person who's talking, who's apparently a close cousin to the orphan Annie. And what we can see are the distances. We call it the feedback triangle, and I know it doesn't look like a triangle in my picture here. Just trust me, it's a triangle. All right. We can see the distance between the person and the microphone and the microphone and the loudspeaker. And our basic inverse square law takes effect here, that mic placement is very important.
Okay.
Every time we double the distance of the microphone from the source material, a fancy way of saying your mouth, basically, or where the sound is coming from, we're going to lose 6 dB of volume there. And so we want to make sure that the microphone is closer to the source material than it is to loudspeakers, and almost in every scenario it will be. But again, doesn't take very much doubling that distance from your mouth. And I'm not saying we should eat the microphone, okay? But get into mic etiquette here. But as we move that mic away from your mouth as you're speaking, you're changing that ratio and not in your favor. So that's the one thing, is it comes down to like real estate: location, location, location.
Sure.
And one of the things to bear in mind is that the speaker inherently is a lot louder than you are, or else you wouldn't have them, right? You just shout.
Yeah.
So that's part of that ratio, is the distance, doesn't have to be equal for it to be a problem. In fact, certainly the distance would never be likely to be equal. When I'm giving presentations, I wear my ear set and I walk in front of my speakers all the time, and people are amazed by how I don't have feedback. And those who encounter feedback and haven't watched this show yet, maybe are some of the people who are amazed. Two things that are going on there that we're going to cover in the episode here. One is that ear set is very close to my mouth.
Sure.
It's right on my cheek. And two, I'm using good equalization and gain structure management, which are the other things we're going to talk about. So anyway, that graphic that we got here shows our relationship between the presenter and the microphone, and the speaker and the microphone, and then the blue arrow represents the speaker going towards the audience, which obviously that sound has to travel a lot further than the sound from us to the microphone. So we want to control that ratio in a way that's favorable to us.
Sure.
Clear as mud?
Oh, yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
All right, good. Well, here's another way we can do it. Let's go ahead and cue the graphic with my microphones and their polars.
Yeah, we're there.
And what you see here are two microphones, and these graphics courtesy of Shure Microphone Company here in Chicago. So thanks, Shure. They don't know I use these, but I bet they do now. They're big on education too. I just love them for that. Mm-hmm. And I honestly, it's one of those times when I knew they'd be glad I used them. So there's my guilt trip.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds a little bit like a guilt trip coming on, but
yeah. Well, I would have went down and asked them, but they're closed now. It's nighttime.
Exactly. And you only had the 35 seconds from the room to this.
Pretty much. So thanks, sure, appreciate everything. No, really, seriously, they are big on education, and there's a lot of good stuff on their website for learning materials. But you shouldn't go there. You should just listen to me. All right. If we look at these two microphones, what you see are these polar drawings, and they're showing the pickup pattern of the microphone.
Okay.
The Omni is showing that microphone picks up in all directions like a sphere all the way around that microphone.
Okay.
And thusly, it's going to be more susceptible to feedback than something like a cardioid or a hypercardioid or a supercardioid. And the other microphone that you see is the cardioid. And if you look at the graphic, you'll notice that it has a lot of off-axis rejection, which is our fancy sound guy way of saying it picks up in one direction and not the other.
Okay.
So as you're speaking into the microphone, down into the axis of the microphone, you're on axis and it's picking you up. But the back end, the handle end, where the cable end is not picking anything up, or certainly not as much. And that's what we call the off-axis rejection.
Sure.
That's great for singers and things with monitors, because the monitor is basically pointed right at the singer in almost the same direction as the handle of the microphone, but it doesn't matter so much because there's a lot of rejection on that axis of a cardioid. Now you might say, okay, well, since cardioids are so much better, why even bother having omnis? Why would we have those? And the correct answer to every engineering question is...
It depends.
It depends. Maybe I want to pick up sound in all directions.
Mm-hmm.
So different tools for different purposes. But a cardioid or a hypercardioid or a supercardioid, those are just variants on what we see here. And I didn't include the graphics because it doesn't really matter at this point. Basically, there are different patterns that have off-axis rejection. They pick up in one area and not in another, and that's the important takeaway.
Sure. Those
will help because they will pick up the sound from where you want them to and not other directions.
We're doing well. We've gone through some feedback things and some microphone design, and now we're talking acoustics. What's next?
Okay, viewers, how are you doing? Well, it works on kids shows.
Is that the snoring I hear? No, it's. Who do we ask next?
Yeah, it works on kids shows. So, what do you do about it? I think that's the big burning question. Number one is identify what your offending frequencies are. If you're spoiled like me and you're a spoiled rotten sound baby, and you get to use something like Smart that will give you a spectral image, that's really nice because it just feedback shows up as a perfect stripe in a spectral reading because it's a consistent tone amongst other inconsistent information. For everybody else, you got to kind of figure it out, and there are some ways to do that. One, we can start hunting for some of those areas that are important to us. Two, we can start looking at what program material might not be important to us at all. If your mixing board has a low cut, I recommend using it without exception on a vocal mic. Your most deepest of voiced are likely not producing anything under 100 hertz or 80 hertz, wherever that low cut is. So just chop that out right away. Then we have to worry about that. That's I know particularly on my ear set that I use, that's a real problem. Is that those low frequencies, and a low cut takes care of that. So we want to focus on where that speech range is and make sure those frequencies are coming through. Two is maintaining that good ratio. Three is good mic placement. I don't know if I'm back on camera now or.
Yeah, we're on camera. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, thank goodness I wasn't, picking my nose or anything. So.
I'm sorry.
One of the most challenging things, and I often say that with every lav, we should just include a sound guy. And I think all the sound guys out there will agree with me. That probably one of the most difficult microphones to prevent feedback is a lav. Because of its design, you have a very small element, and it's typically placed somewhere down here. So that's quite a distance. That's quite a difference from this to this.
Yeah.
Okay, and here I'm on axis, off axis. If I talk in here, it's not going to be very loud, and as I move off the axis, there are cardioid lavs, and that's good because we can control the direction of the pickup a little bit. But many times they use omni lavs, and particularly I know people who are trying to get by with using fewer microphones. They'll use a mic, and they'll want to pick up more than one person. For example, they'll mic the groom, and they'll want to pick up the bride. So by design now, that omni is picking up in a spherical pattern, and that includes the sound coming from our speakers. So we have to find out what sounds are coming through most prevalently, and those are the ones that we need to address because they're the ones creating feedback. An ear set, and I got this one here from my friends at DPA. It's a very swanky ear set. Very cool design. I won't turn it into an infomercial for them, but it's well worth the money that it is. Some of these have capsules and things that we can take off on the end to help with pattern control, but most of it's in the element. And as we can see, when I put that on, it's going to be very close to the source material there.
Sure.
So that I think is a better option for a lav as far as just dealing with placement. But sometimes we have to use lavs. So then, how do we deal with it? Well, EQ basically. EQ is your best friend when it comes to dealing with feedback because we need to identify those offending frequencies and reduce them.
Sure.
Unfortunately, sometimes DJs are very poorly equipped. It's not a reflection on the DJs, it's a reflection on the equipment that they have to go use. They're very poorly equipped to deal with that in a precise manner. And I can illustrate the point if we can go to the other screen here real quick.
We're going to go to the...
Bring up my other computer if we could.
There we are. Yep, we are there.
All right. And let's just go in here. Let's create some DSP blocks. I'm taking it on faith that you have it there, John.
We do. We have it set up or full screen, so we're looking at what you're seeing.
All right, outstanding. Well, I've added a three-band PEQ. PEQ stands for parametric EQ. Mm-hmm. It means we can adjust the parameters of the EQ. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and pretty much most of your, now this varies from piece of equipment to piece of equipment, but they tend to have a very wide Q or swath of frequencies that they're affecting.
Okay.
particularly when you only have three. So let's just say that your mixing board has a 3-band EQ, high, mid, low.
Very typical. Yeah.
Yep, very typical. And I did some looking, and I found that kind of as an average, 0.77 was what I found as an average Q. By default, these come in at 0.7, so we'll just leave it alone. It's good enough.
Okay. Now, when you're saying 0.7, is that referring to that kind of bell-shaped curve kind of a thing, or? Correct.
Okay. The higher the Q, the narrower the filter that we're going to make. And I think it'll be, once we see this here, we'll just got my frequency here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can see as I start to reduce, see you've got that big bell-shaped reduction?
Yeah.
Well, I'm reducing a lot of stuff. I'm really affecting the entire meat of my program material.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And if this is on your outputs, we've taken a huge chunk out of our music as well. If it's our microphone, we've taken a pretty big chunk out of the mic as well.
Oh, certainly.
But that's generally what DJs have to work with, is something that's, somewhere in that neighborhood. Even you can see, even if we change that, and let's tighten it up a little bit, that would be much better, if that were the case. And a sweepable mid is really nice. If you have a small live format console, a sweepable mid means we can move this. Let me illustrate go back to my 0.77. Let's say that my offending frequency is, let's put this guy right at 1 kilohertz just for fun.
Okay.
But let's say my offending frequency is maybe, right in here at 1500. I have to reduce a lot more of my 1K to make an impact on 1500.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just because I can't move this. Now, if this is a sweepable mid, that means I could move this over to 1500, and then at least I'm making more of an impact at 1500 than I am anywhere else.
Sure.
So, all right. So let's just let's hang on to this, and let's set him over here. Let's add another one. This one I'm just going to drop in a 12-band parametric. And let's come over here and let's find one that's already close to 1K. There we go. Let's turn this guy on, and let's make a very narrow Q. Now, if that's where my feedback is, and chances are it's going to occur over a fairly narrow amount of space, I can address that and not have to affect everything else.
Now, when you say it's a narrow Q, what number did you enter in for that particular?
I put 20 in here. That's not really important, I think, for,
I would just give us a relationship between the two.
Right.
Yeah, the idea.
We went to a Q of 20 versus, 8. The other thing is that we're likely to have more than one offending frequency, and they are going to be more or less offensive, depending on, where they're at, and the polars, and not the polars, excuse me, the frequency graphs and the things that we looked at. So maybe this one here, I don't have to reduce as much as this one here. Now with this 12 band, I could go in and put in quite a few of these, and my notches would be pretty narrow. And you can see that the rest of my program material here is pretty unaffected.
Yeah.
Whereas here we're making pretty wholesale changes.
Now is that a potentially realistic that you're showing us right here, where they could be that close in the acoustic range?
Sure.
So it could be.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And again, we would want to basically let's say we've got our low cut. It's tough to do here, but let's make a shelf. This is maybe what our low cut might look like. Our low cut might just eliminate everything after that.
Sure.
So we're not worried about anything happening below 100 hertz here, for example. But yeah, that's a pretty realistic look at what we might end up with. If you find yourself pulling down a lot of stuff, assuming let's go back and our assumptions here. Let's assume that we're not working with the 3-band EQ and we're not using the elephant gun to swat flies. Let's assume that we do have a parametric EQ that we can go in and adjust. First and foremost, best if we're only adjusting that microphone. And these notches are only affecting the microphone and not the main output program material. And we'll come back and visit that when we talk about automatic feedback suppression. But that's the best case, first and foremost, right there. And a lot of new small format digital consoles even have dynamics built in that would give you this sort of flexibility, even if on a smaller scale, which still allow you to address just that mic channel and not have to address your music program material. And you can address different microphones differently if you have that dynamics. The other way this can be done is using insert channels on a mixing board and having those outboard processors. But anyway, if you find yourself having to pull down a lot of stuff, something else is wrong.
Sure.
If we're just constantly pulling down stuff, really at that point you're just reducing gain pretty much across the board.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe that was the issue. Maybe you just have your mic's too sensitive, or your gain structure is kind of out of whack with your loudspeaker. But I just want to demonstrate the difference between having to go out with a 3-band EQ on your mixing board and try to make those adjustments versus being able to come in and make very specific and purposeful adjustments to address that feedback and keep most of the program material intact. Let's talk now, unless you've got a question, which maybe it'd be good if you did, but.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. We just went back to cameras here.
Okay.
I like that explanation. I think that makes a lot of sense. My biggest question really would be is how a person would find those frequencies. As I'm looking at what you sketched and such, it's like potential could be for feedbacks all over. And I mean, is it a trial and error in most cases if you don't have the proper tools? Is that how you find those things, or is there an easier, better way?
Some people have fantastic ears, and I've worked with some sound professionals that just leave me speechless. They just hear so well, and their brain can correlate what they're hearing to the numerical data. One of the things I like to do is just pull down a notch. Always better to go down than up, particularly when you don't know what's going to happen when you're tuning your system and things like that. You don't want to create damage. But I like to just pull down a notch all the way and slide it back and forth and listen. And maybe it's not even that I'm eliminating feedback. I maybe am finding other frequencies that are just offensive to the ear in that room, that they're very resonant, that sort of thing. When you have feedback, getting in the ballpark, helps. But then you can pull that down if you've got a tool like this, and you can just start sliding it. You'll hear the feedback go away.
Yeah.
You'll hear it start to get reduced. So trial and error, I guess, yeah. Again, eliminate the first easy and obvious variables. Yeah. Look at speaker placement, mic placement. Get rid of frequencies you don't need. If you have the ability to do a low cut on that microphone, and then you kind of go hunting. And after a while, you start to kind of dial it in. You start to develop, like anything else we do in life. With practice, you start to learn to correlate frequencies and what you hear with numbers, and you kind of know where to go a little bit.
Yeah.
And again, some people are better at this than others. The transducers that are in your head, the ears are remarkable, just absolutely remarkable feats of engineering. And then the brain's ability to correlate that to information. Some people get it and some people don't. Yeah. And admittedly, I don't have a great ear. I'm much more of a numbers guy. And I always laugh when people, when I mix live shows and people say, wow, you're so good. You do such a great job mixing sound. And I laugh because I know some people who are truly good, and yeah. I wouldn't mix if they were in the room. I just wouldn't want to be around because they have a gift that I don't have.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, maybe this is a good place to jump into automatic feedback suppressors. And first I'll say that really, in the simplest of terms, an automatic feedback suppressor is an EQ. That's what it is. And this is a good place to just jump in on what an EQ is too. And I think we're going to do a show on that. But we talked about those frequency responses for the microphone and for the speaker. Mm-hmm. And we talked about how they're not equal. Well, that's what the purpose of an equalizer is, to equalize that and start to bring those frequencies back to equal, and then we can use it to flavor to our taste too as well.
Sure.
But in the simplest of terms, what an automatic feedback suppressor is an EQ. That's what it is.
Sure.
The difference is that it is listening and analyzing, and when it senses feedback, a consistent tone above the other level, it says, you know what, I think that's feedback, and it will make adjustments and it will notch it down. So here's the downside of that. You have to have the feedback, and it has to be fairly loud and sustained
For it to pick it up.
For it to be, yeah. So that's what they call live filters. I think live filters they're like life jackets. You know, if the ship's already sinking, I guess it's what you got. I don't want to rely on live filters. Even as, you know, admittedly, like I said, I don't have a great ear. I'm still much better than a live filter on an AFS. You know, I'll hear that slight ringing start to happen, or that just where that, you know, that frequency is going to be a problem, and I'll grab it and find it and get rid of it before anybody hopefully even notices,
sure,
except the other sound guys in the audience. There are also what they call fixed filters, and this is maybe counterintuitive, but you'll be really popular with the catering people, by the way. As they're setting tables and the room is empty other than service staff, you make your system feedback, and you deliberately do that so the system has a chance to find and eliminate those filters. And it's kind of fun to watch an AFS work, AFS automatic feedback suppressor. You'll have this, you know, and you'll hear them and then they'll drop out.
And now is that what the picture we have? We have one of those?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the next graphic, and we're going to take a look at what an automatic feedback suppressor looks like in the digital realm. And of course, we live in an era now where almost everything is digital on some level. You know, there's DSPs you can get for under $500 that you can connect your iPad to and make these adjustments while you're listening to the system. And this isn't one of the ones that's under $500, but you know what? They're getting really, really good. I mean, yep, the tools that are out there are really quite remarkable. In a system DSP, like a drive rack or a DC-1 or something like that, you know, whatever we do is affecting all of our audio. It's affecting our entire main output signal. So that's where narrow notches are really important, because we don't want to take out big chunks of our music. And that's what you can't take out one and not the other if you're taking it on the main output.
Sure.
So if you've got that graph, you see the yellow line, and again, I'm going from memory here because I don't have the benefit of seeing it, but you'll be my eyes for me.
Yep.
We got that yellow line, and it's got little notches in there.
Yeah, we got 3 notches.
That's where the system has identified that there's feedback. When we cranked it up and we made it obnoxious and annoyed the catering staff, you know, long before guests arrived, very important. We've dealt with the things that we talked about earlier, the response of the speaker and the sensitivity of the microphone, and then now the room's acoustics as well, and the placement of everything. And the system has said, okay, these are going to be my problem children, and it remembers those. Okay. It remembers those fixed frequencies. And what's nice is many DSPs have user memories, so you can say, well, I play this ballroom, you know, 4 or 5 times a year. I'm just going to save this in here.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, and it's a good jumping off point, really a good starting point to know that those frequencies with that microphone and that speaker and that placement are going to be problem children for you. And it'll just kind of notch those out, and we notice those are pretty small notches. And again, I don't have the benefit of seeing the graphic right now, but I bet it looks pretty similar to what we looked at on the EQ I made.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
It's fundamentally the same thing. Now, again, you can set it up to have a certain number of fixed filters, a certain number of live filters. I would favor the fixed filters, because the live filters you're going to have to be obnoxious for those to kick in, and hopefully by then you've already done something about it before that's the Hail Mary.
Sure.
You're asleep at the wheel.
Yeah. Cool. Very neat.
Now, the other graphic just shows kind of an import of ASCII data. This is a more advanced
let's go to that one.
Suppressor.
Yeah, let's take a look at that.
Yeah, and I don't want to get real heavy into that, but that just shows the power of the digital era, where we can start saving known information and importing, known pieces of information about our equipment and saying, this is what I did in this venue. Just wanted to show some of the cool nerd toys we have. So
yeah, that one looked a little bit on the intimidating side.
No, it's not that bad though. I mean, that's relative for everybody, but it's not that bad. You gotta crawl before you walk, and then then you'll run. Yeah. And we watch toddlers; they fall down. That's a part of life.
But for someone like myself who struggled with this, I mean, I'd have to have a buttload of learning to be able to figure out what all that's about, and it's really difficult.
Now, do you know that a buttload is a real thing? And it is not relative to the size of the butt either.
Did we just walk into Cheers here?
Norm? No, I don't know. Do you drink wine?
I'm not much of a wine person.
Okay, well I'm not really either. But that's why it's forgivable. You don't know. But a butt is a wine container barrel or something. But it's anyway. A butt load is 126 gallons.
so it is a measurable
26 gallons of learning.
Yeah, there.
I think the big thing is. Like people who've had too much wine, we have to be afraid not to fall down. We can't be afraid to make mistakes, and that's how we learn. We don't want to make the mistakes in front of our clients, but learning is a process, and we have to be willing to try these things. And it frustrates me to no end on the chat boards when I see people who come asking for I'm going to get on my soapbox and rant, but I think this is shared by a few people. Somebody comes out seeking advice, and boy, the first thing is somebody has to tell them why they're such a moron for asking, and I don't know anybody asks for advice anymore. God bless them. Keep asking advice, because I guarantee you, here we go, here's my soapbox. Those of you who are brave enough to ask advice are helping thousands of people who just read.
Oh, for sure.
So thank you for being willing to take the bullet, because we all learned somehow, some way. And don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't be afraid to reach out to other people when you make those mistakes. There are a lot of good-hearted people, I would say, like myself, and a lot of the professionals that I know. We know that our careers wouldn't be where they are today if we hadn't learned from other people. Yeah. And we don't take that for granted. We're happy to help. We want to be a resource for those people who are brave enough to ask questions. And to the rest of you that just want to tell everybody how great you are, well, whatever, good for you. That's
yeah, that's.
I'm gonna get the hate mail now.
Yeah,
there's flamed on the forums tomorrow.
Wait a second. Make sure we get this up here. Okay, if you got any comments, send them via Twitter to. But if you do have questions, I mean, that's something that we like to talk about on Tuesday nights with Ben Stowe. If you've got questions or comments or anything, go to Twitter. And you can do the hashtag NLFXBen or the @ NLFXBen, and we'll catch up with that in one of the upcoming shows. But yeah, that's something that's really been an important thing as long as I've known you, that you've been just a really passionate person when it comes to education and things.
Well, I think a lot of people know this. I don't make a secret out of it, because I think it's important. I think it's an important part of where we're all at in the career, in our careers in the industry today. But my first lights were made out of coffee cans, and some guy had to tell me why I needed a mixing board. Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't have a clue. Granted, that was 20 plus years ago, but the point is, it happened. There was a time, and none of us really comes out of the womb. Nobody I know comes out of the womb and says, "Well, I'm the greatest sound engineer known to man." They might say it. Yeah. There's no shortage of people who will say it, but
accuracy might be.
Yeah, So you want to know a couple other cool, useless facts?
So I was just wondering, are we going to add a new segment to the Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe?
Yeah, the Cliff Clavin. We'll call it a buttload of facts.
Yes, now you've reached, ladies and gentlemen, you are now reaching the buttload of facts segment with
buttload
Tuesday
of facts.
Night.
126 gallons of facts. Well, okay. Did you know that if you took a piece of paper like this,
yep,
and you fold it 42 times, it would reach to the moon?
Oh, okay. No, I did not know that, and obviously I have done that.
I'll wait. Just try it. I'll wait.
Yeah, you've got people sleeping in the other room. You probably.
No, okay. But seriously, now I'll also tell you, you cannot fold it 42 times. I don't think you can anyway.
I don't think you can fold it up like 5 or 6.
And that a jiffy is really a unit of measurement.
And how long is a jiffy?
A jiffy is, let's see, it's 3.3564 picoseconds. Yeah, 3.3564, yeah, picosecond.
What's a picosecond?
it's a very small slice of a second. Well,
So it does. It's a real thing.
yeah, it really is. I said, you really want the answer to that? Because I'll give it to you. But,
Yeah, I exactly I would. And then I'll just be happy with knowing that it exists, and it's a real thing.
yeah, a Jiffy's real, and it's really
it's
fast.
real. I got a buttload of Jiffy going on. Oh,
Yeah,
no. That's not right. That's different.
Well, 126 gallons of peanut butter, maybe.
That sounds a little.
That's a buttload of Jiffy. The Kessel Run and parsecs and all that. But anyway, yeah. I think a parsec is a measure of distance, though, and not time. So it wasn't accurate to use that as a unit of measure in Star Wars to say how fast the Millennium Falcon could make the Kessel Run.
Yeah.
You couldn't make it. It'd be like saying I ran a mile in a mile.
Yeah.
But anyway, I still love the movie. That goes without saying. I still love all that.
Of course, a lot of people probably don't understand, that part of it if they haven't watched it that carefully. And for those people, they're probably not watching us anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna say they turned us off a long time ago, and I know we're way past time. I'm just stalling, but what keeps me up at night? If Chewbacca was in Episode 3 and saw Luke and Leia separated at birth, then in Episode 5, when Luke kissed Leia, he knew they were brother and sister, and he didn't tell Han. That is not a very good wingman.
The bro code was broken.
I don't know how you say it in Wookiee, but, dude, that's his sister. Just hang tight. This is going to work itself out.
See, all the different answers you're getting tonight. You're learning about microphones. You're learning about Star Wars. Just well-rounded we are.
I think the underlying point here is we need more questions.
There we are. Oh, we should wrap things up. We are past our half hour. A lot of great information tonight, Ben. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, John.
The whole feedback world, that's some really, really cool stuff. So, again, if you have questions, we'll get that graphic back up here, wherever it is. There it is. If you have any questions, pop those over via Twitter to Ben, and he can answer those for you. And, we'll look forward to next week, next Tuesday night.
I got to go wake some people up.
Sounds great, Ben. Thank you very much. This is John Young with the Disc Jockey News and Disc Jockey News TV. Good night.